Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about tables, graphs, and what that means as it relates to the word function. So a function really is if you have an input, you can find an output. So in x, out y. And then in between the function, well, that's a fancy word for an equation here. So they're going to give you an equation, they're going to give you some values for x, and you're going to have to go find the values for y. So how we're going to set that up. I'm looking over here at my IXL. You see here it says y equals 2x. Well, I'm going to write that equation real quick. I have y equals 2x. Now here it says that my x equals 0. So if x equals 0, I can substitute that 0 in for this x. So I can say, well, then y equals 2. Now remember, when they're next to each other, that's multiplication. So y equals 2 times 0. Well, what is 2 times 0? Yeah, y equals 0. So when I input x, y is 0. And I could think about that. X is 0, y is 0. And I would do the same thing over here on my table. Because if x is 0, y is 0. And I would continue through each one of these. So now I'm going to look at if I have my x equals 2, well, my equation is still y equals 2x. Y equals, now remember, that 2 and that x are being multiplied, so that's 2 times 2. Therefore, y would equal 4. Input 2, output 4, using this equation. So I'm going to go ahead, if I input 2 and my output was 4, then input 2, output 4. That's a coordinate. It's an x and a y. It's a place on a graph. We need to do this for each one of the inputs we've been given. So go ahead and pause the video and finish the last two, and then come back and I'll show you how to graph it. Okay, so I have completed the part where I need to input my x so I can find my output y, and I have all of those coordinates inside this table. Next, I need to graph. And this is important that you kind of think, okay, technology is really good at graphing, and technology only needs 2 points to make a line. When we as humans make lines, we need more than 2 points, or they're really, really hard to get straight. But when we are on technology, we only need 2 points. So I'm going to start here. It says 0, 0 is my first coordinate, and it doesn't matter which 2 you use. I'm going to go to 0, 0, and I'm going to click, and you notice a coordinate shows up. Now let's say you're like, oh, I didn't mean to put it there. Click it again, and it goes away. But I want it to be at 0, 0. And then I'm looking for the next coordinate. The next coordinate says 2, 4. So 2, 4, wait a second. Whew, my line's already here. Now this is helping, this is a guide. So I'm going to look for 2, 4. Here's 2. And then if I go to 4, there we go. And I'm going to click. Now I have a line. If I don't want it to be there, I decided, oops, made a mistake. I click again, and now I can move my line wherever I want to. If I want it to be there, I click and it becomes solid line. So right now, before I move on, I want to double check all of my work. Because in IXL here, you have several entries. So every part of your table has to be correct, and your graph has to be correct when you hit submit in order for it to count as correct. I want to make sure. So I'm going to go to 4, 8, and I'm going to just use my fingers on 4, 8. I'm going to go to 4, I'm going to go to 8, I'm going to intersect them. Is that on my line? Yes, so that must be correct because all of these should be on our line. They're part of this function. They're part of this line. I'm going to look for 5. Here's 5, here's 10. I'm going to trace them. Are they on the line? Yes, 5, 10 is on the line I've already made. So that tells me that my table and my graph match, and because my graph on my is a straight line, I know I have a linear function, and that looks great. So then I would hit submit. And I'd get a new problem. So here's our new problem. It says complete the table, then graph the function. Here I have y equals 2x plus 3. Well, I'm going to pause this video, or you're going to pause this video, and we're going to work it out. And once you finish, we're going to come back, we're going to double check the table, and then we're going to graph it real quick. All right, welcome back. So as you can see here, I said, all right, here's my function right here. Here's my equation, y equals 2x plus 3. And I had 4 parts of the table I needed to complete, so I have 4 equations. I have an x equals 0. I know x can equal y, x is going to equal 2, and x is going to equal 3. And I have input or substituted that x value in. So I rewrote this y equals 2. Now between 2 and x, when they're next to each other, that's multiplication. So parentheses, 2 times 0 plus 3. 2 times 0, 2 times 0, remember multiplication before addition, is 0. And then 0 plus 3, well, my answer is 3. So when I input 0, out comes 3. When I have my input as 1, I can rewrite this equation as y equals 2. Now again, multiplication, 2 times 1 plus 3. Multiplication before addition, we're simplifying. So y equals 2 plus 3. Well, 2 plus 3 is 5. So when I input 1 into this equation, my output is 5. So my ordered pair is 1, 5. And we can work our way through. I input 2. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. Therefore, input of 2, output of 7. I have y equals 2x plus 3. With a 3 as my input, I have 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 plus 3 is 9. So my input of 3 results in an output of 9. Then I can come over here to IXL and I can enter those numbers. When I input 0, out was 3. If I have an input of 1, my output was 5. When I had an input of 2, my output was 7. And when I had an input of 3, my output was 9. And now I need to graph. 0, 3, remember 0 is x, and then 3. I now have 1, 5, so I'm going to go to 1, and from 1 I need to be at 5. Remember, we're going to click or mouse click, and we'll have a solid line. Don't stop here. Make sure you check all your coordinates and make sure they're all on the line, because they are all solutions to this equation. If you're missing one or something's off, go back and fix it, because it all needs to be correct in order for your answer to be counted as correct. And if you're not careful, you'll make a silly mistake or a little calculation error. Take your time. It's better to take your time on each problem than it is to do a whole bunch of problems incorrectly. That's just going to take more time for you. So I'm going to hit submit, and here we go. I think you're going to do well on a problem like this. There is probably one here maybe we want to take a look at. Careful with the negatives. If you have a negative coefficient, remember that, see that -5, that be careful with negatives. We talked about integers this week. Two-step, just like we finished. So these are problems that are familiar. You need to be careful with your, be careful, careful, careful. I got to say that many times. Careful, careful, careful with those integers. But this problem looks different. And this is a little confusing. You're like, it says y equals -4. But you said x equals. Where do I input the x? That's a great question. Where do we input the x? There's no x there. It just says y equals -4. What it's saying is y will always equal -4. Right? That's what equals means, always. If y always equals -4, it doesn't matter what x is. So -9, well, y is still -4. Doesn't matter. X can be whatever it wants to be. It could be 1,000,000. It could be 2.5. Does not matter what x is, because my equation says y is always -4. So I can look here, -9, well, -4. I'm going to go to -9, -4, click. Well, my next one was -5, still at -4. So if you notice, I have a horizontal line. That's okay. Linear lines can absolutely be horizontal. And I'll hit submit. So we talked about a few different problems. Be careful. This is about one-step and two-step equations. Take your time. Double check your work. Make sure your graph is a line, first of all, and it should be because you're only going to make 2 points, but make sure every single coordinate in your table is on the line you've graphed. That will help you stay focused and make sure your answers are correct. If you have questions, let me know.